Hey everybody, I'm Brian here with Knox Company, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use some of the sanded caulk to actually fix some of these grout lines in any of your wet areas of your house, such as your bathroom. And you can see here I have some gaps that have been created over the last couple years, and it's just from the expansion and contraction of the base moldings or any type of moisture that might have been in this bathroom. You can also see it over here by the bathtub. I have some good gaps right there, and the house is about 3 years old and I'm going to fix those. So first we're going to actually scrape away some of that old grout. I use a dull chisel that I have. It's kind of just like one of my little tools that I keep around to kind of help scrape it away. I didn't really want to gouge into the tile too much, but this is just something that I use to kind of get a feel for how easy this is going to come up. I ended up needing to upgrade to an old throwdown like flathead screwdriver. It's a little bit sharper, but I didn't want to use anything too sharp and actually gouge into the bathtub or the tile. But I used a little bit of finesse and got all of the old grout up. I couldn't really tell if they actually used a sanded caulk or not because it kind of broke apart like grout. But I had to remove it around all the baseboards. I had to remove it around the bathtub. Here I'm using the flathead screwdriver to kind of break away the old grout along the door trim. And once I got this removed, you could really see how much space and gap was created behind. This really wasn't at any fault. It's just kind of comes with having a house for a couple years. And again, in any wet rooms, you're going to have the moisture kind of go up and down. So I just got around to kind of clean it up. I didn't want the moisture problem to get any worse. We have young kids, so they splash water a lot. So this is just part of the maintenance of the house. But you really want to make sure that you clean up this grout well. I scraped all of the old residue off, came back through, and then after doing like a final scrape, I then took the house vacuum or a shop vac, and I just vacuumed up all the debris. You want to get all the old stuff out of there, any of the dust, any little pieces out of the way. This is something that you can definitely do. I'll show you guys a technique that will help you guys get some clean grout lines as well. I'll put a link for any of the product that I use. There's a couple different brands of sanded grout that sanded caulk that I use, but here's a little look at how big of a gap there was along one side. It's a good 1/8 of an inch, and you could really see it, and then the old grout was in the way. So that's what we want to prevent water from getting down in there and then staying wet for any long periods of time. So first, to get those really razor sharp grout lines or caulk lines, you want to lay some tape. I like to use just painter's tape, and pretty much anywhere that edge of that tape is going to be is exactly where your caulk's going to be. So take your time and place the tape exactly where you want it to be. And here I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I know that I'm going to have about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little more of caulk that I'm going to run along. And then I run another strip along the top as well, because again, anywhere that edge of this painter's tape is going to be your final edge of where your caulk is going to be. This is a technique that you can use on drywall or textured drywalls. It works really good, obviously, on any of these really flat surfaces. So these baseboards and the door trim, it was no problem. This painter's tape is also a medium adhesive, so it's not going to pull up any of the paint on the walls either. So I don't like to use anything too aggressive, because the last thing you want to do is pull your tape and end up pulling paint off the wall. So take your time, place the tape exactly where you want your grout lines to be, and once we actually put the sanded caulk down, you'll see how clean and easy it is. So this is pretty much the hardest part right here, is spending the time to put down your tape so that your caulk lines are razor sharp. This is just a little bit closer look at all the little details around that I was able to get the tape. Went all the way around the bathtub from door jamb to door jamb. And it looks a little complex here, but just take your time. Make sure that you put that tape exactly where you want that caulk. So I'm going to use some of this sanded caulk that I got from Lowe's. This is a brand that Lowe's carries, and the reason I used this brand was because it was the exact same brand and color of the grout that the house was built with. When you have a new home build, Tell them to leave anything extra so that you can know what kind of tile they used, what kind of grout they used, and you can match it later on. So I was able to match this. It was a pearl gray. And you're just gonna lay a little bead of that caulk there, and you can see in the texture it has a little bit of a grittiness to it. That's because it has a little bit of the grout inside that caulk. And you're just gonna run your finger along the tape. Biggest thing here is to make sure you just don't spread the caulk out past the tape line. The tape is gonna catch all of the excess. I keep a little paper towel on hand that I can wipe my finger and wipe off any of that excess residue. And then I do one final pass to kind of really press the caulk down into the crack. I wanna make sure that I fill the crack and don't just cover it. Then I continue this same technique around the baseboards and around the door jamb trim. And especially where I know that there's a good gap, I wanna make sure I have enough material there to push down into that crack. So I wanna fill it and cover it. Then you can just run your finger along it and do the same thing. Just make sure you don't squeeze out any of that caulk past the tape. This is really the fun part because we're like hitting that finish line and you can kind of see it start to come together. And it definitely looks messy, but trust me, once you pull that tape, you'll see why all that hard work and time that you spent in preparation pays off. Now it's time to pull the tape. This is probably the most fun part, but again, be very careful. You have wet caulk. I wouldn't let it sit for too long, so I'd pull that tape carefully, trying to make sure none of those edges hit the ground. So I would just take my time pulling it piece by piece, and I would just kind of go in layers, kind of work backwards from how you put it on. You could also work from the beginning and have it all kind of peel up together. But here, just be careful to make sure you don't touch the wet caulk on any of the surfaces around it. These ones are nice and easy because they're long. They're just a single piece of tape. Continue the same process all the way around. We're almost done. And then I'll give you guys a final look at the finished product. There you go. The color is a little bit off right now just because it's fresh, but it will dry a little bit closer to the actual grout color. Main thing is we don't have to worry about any water damage or any water setting into those cracks. It also cleans it up, gives the bathroom a little fresh facelift. This is just something that we did cosmetically. There wasn't really anything majorly wrong with the old grout, but it was just kind of bugging me and I knew it was something that I could fix, and I wanted to make this little video for you guys in case you've ever wondered about how can you fix something like this in maybe your bathroom or any of your wet areas. In the wet areas, I would use a sanded caulk, and it's actually able to be matched to the grout, usually the tile that you use in your bathroom or house. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and in the meantime, I'll see you on the next build.